You are listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short. And today I'm so excited to be here with Rene Byrd. Rene is a singer-songwriter, influencer, and ambassador for the Nielsen Mandela Children's Fund. In the pandemic, Rene created a talk show called Who Am I Talk Show, which we have named this after, so you guys can find that talk show pretty easily. And on that talk show, she speaks with brand experts, public figures, and celebrities about their stories to inspire at such a sensitive time. By the way, I listened to a few of those before we got on, and they're pretty amazing. So you guys are going to want to check them out. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so really excited to be on your show, and I've been listening to your shows and they're amazing, and it's all about faith and hope. I think in this season more than ever we have to have hope and faith, so what you're doing and what the messages that you're putting out are amazing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Rene, for being on here. I know that it was a struggle for us to connect, and I'm just really glad it's happening. And Rene's actually written for Best Holistic Life magazine, and we were really grateful for that. But I want to talk about you. And we ask all of our guests if they will share their story of hope, because I believe our stories of hope are heartbeats that we send out into the world and connect to others and give them that moment that they may need that hope to take that next step or move on in their journey. So do you want to share your story of hope?
Yeah, definitely. I can think of a few versions of it, but I would say in particular, I was in a very long relationship up to my early 30s, I would say. And I was with him for most of my life. And I don't know if anyone listening knows, when you have a breakup, in any case, especially with someone for so long, it feels like death. It feels like you're mourning, but the person still exists. And I remember that pivotal moment when me and him split. And it was kind of like when Rene was born, I must say, because I realized it's a sink or swim moment. You're either going to pick yourself up and rise above and be successful and really push forward, or you're going to sit and wallow in it. Now, don't get me wrong, of course, there were moments where there's a Sex and the City part where she closes the curtains and doesn't want to eat. I did that. But very quickly after realizing I can only cry so much, I can only eat pizzas or whatever I was trying to do to make myself feel better so much, I've got to pick myself up. And that has a lot to do with the creation of a lot of songs that I've created and written in the past, and part of the album that I'll be putting out. So through bad experiences, it teaches you things about yourself. It teaches you how strong you are, how resilient you are. And I always say you've got to do your best to channel that negativity and that pain into something positive. So that's my story of hope. And this is why I'm standing and I'm strong today because of it.
I love it. I always tell friends of mine who are in relationships that don't work out and they're so sad, and it's okay. That's okay, right? To be sad. Okay. You just don't want to live in that space. You want to feel it and then move through it. And I always tell them, like, you should be so grateful because they released you. They could have held you for years working on something that was never going to work out. But they gave you a great gift by releasing you out to find what really is out there that's going to make you joyful. And so I love that you shared that story, because during the holidays, I think some of us who are alone, we look back and that makes us really sad.
Yes.
This is your opportunity, right? It's your opportunity to find that perfect person.
It is. I think I agree. I think now more than ever, people have spent more time with themselves than they ever have. And I don't think anyone's not been reflective and thought about who they are, what their purpose is, what they're here for. No one really stopped to think about that. You were so busy on I call it the treadmill of life. And then suddenly you was frozen in a space where you was working from home. You was in your home space, because especially in the UK and parts of Europe, there was loads of lockdowns. I think they had that in the US, but not as intense. And you had no choice but to think, who have I got by my side, or who would I like by my side? Or actually, sorry to say, who I might have by my side, I don't want by my side anymore. That happened a lot. You heard of those, sadly, breakups as well, where people realize what they do not want. All the passions within people, they decided this is time for me to really let it out. Why not? When you heard of the horrible stories of people passing on to and not making through this pandemic, it really made you realize how precious life is. So more than ever, I think it created an explosion of startups, an explosion of people digging deep within themselves to see what it is that they can offer the world. So it's through a negative and a very hard situation that we're still going through, I think some amazing things have been blossomed.
I love it. I do think too that one of the things you just touched on, and it made me think of a Sex and the City episode because I too am a fan.
I love
But
it.
when we meet someone we love, we change ourselves, right, to fit into their world, to make sure that we're that person for them. And maybe we don't like meat, and we start eating meat because they're taking us to burger places and saying how much they love it, or we change the kind of music we like, and it gets exhausting. And at some point in this relationship, the really you is going to come out. And they're going to be like, what happened? What happened to the girl I met? What happened? And so I think getting comfortable with you in these times that you're alone and being really real about who you are when you meet someone is really going to help you get into a relationship that's going to be long-term, where they see all your beauty, your not so beauty, whatever you're uncomfortable with or super proud of. And that's what attracts them. So I love that you kind of said that, because I do remember an episode where she was like fitting into everybody else's boxes, and it was exhausting. It was exhausting watching it.
Yeah, and you're completely correct. I think we're thrown, well, especially being in media, like you are in media, I'm in media. There's so many images that are pushed out there every 5 seconds of what is perfect, what's not perfect, how slim, how perfect skin, and it's too much. And if you really sat and absorbed everything, you think, my God, I'm just the worst. But not realizing a lot of it, there's, enhancements made. People have got plastic surgery, people have got the best definition of makeup, and no one's really what you see other than what you think that they are, if that makes sense. A lot of people in our industry, we're doing pictures, we're doing videos, and we are having enhancements, photoshops. Your skin might break out, but they'll remove it. My skin was going crazy because I had COVID at one point where my imbalance was all out. And I was like, I can't do these home my talks. I'm nervous that people are going to maybe judge me. But I thought, this is another side of me that people need to see, because I'm human. I'm not a machine. I'm not something that doesn't feel pain or doesn't have a spot once in a while. This is the most natural sometimes you have to be, so people can believe and see that there are two sides to you, not just one. So we have to be really careful what we're absorbing from the social media in particular, because it can sell something which is not necessarily all true. So it's important for people to see the other sides of you. If you are struggling, tell them. If you're happy, tell them, but don't just think, everyone's bouncing about, because that's definitely not what's happening at this moment in time. A lot of people are going through a real tough time, and you've got to be honest about it.
I live in Studio City, California, which is called Studio City because we're surrounded by studios.
Yes.
And my husband's veterinarian clinic is right next to CBS. They share a parking structure. And so most of his clients are celebrities. I walk down my neighborhood and I run into tons of them. None of them look like they do on TV. They're beautiful people, but they don't. Sometimes it's their voice that's what I recognize first, because they look so different to how they look on TV. And I love that they're getting more comfortable with that. They used to not walk out without a glam squad, fixing them. Now they're out jogging and they're sweaty, and you're like, oh, they're real, just like us. Oh, she has cottage cheese thighs, just like me. They're like real people, just like us. But on what you're seeing on screen and what you're seeing in magazines, if you're trying to emanate that and be like that, it's never going to happen unless you get a really good airbrusher to help you.
Definitely. And I think it's important, as I said, there's good and bad days. Some people might not like the natural side of them. Okay, that's fine. But that's the more human side. And I think the most I love when I see people in the public eye that are okay occasionally to show their true self. Nothing wrong with that. And then they're glammed up. So at least you've got something to work towards. Otherwise, what's the transition? Sometimes it can be scary, like, oh my God, it's completely different to what you expect to see, as you said. But you give them a little bit more respect when you see them in their authentic self. And sometimes you might not be very well. So then if you're not well, you're not going to look amazing. You can do the best you can. But these are the things that we go through, and we have to be transparent about it. So I admire when people are brave, that's what it is, to just be themselves occasionally. And then you see them in another light and they're glammed up and they're doing red carpet. That's okay. That's human, because we don't, unless, well, maybe some women do, but most women don't go to bed with a face full of makeup. So, hey, you got to look natural occasionally.
I love it. Rene, I know that you had a bout of COVID and it was a really scary, it was a really scary journey for you. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit, because there's people who, I think everyone in the US, actually everyone in the world has been touched by COVID. Either we've gotten it, we know someone who's gotten it, we've debated vaccinations. It's like it's touched all of us.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about your journey with it.
It's been really tough, I'm not gonna lie. I got it in February of this year. And it's funny, I had every symptom you can have. They say you've got various ones that people get, and some people don't get all, but I got it all. My eye was red, and then I should have known, actually. I was thinking about it. The sense of smell, I'm into candles, is my bliss. Couldn't smell any candles, didn't even put two and two together that I'm not smelling candles. And when I was cooking, couldn't smell garlic. That could have told me something. So all the symptoms you can imagine I had, and it got progressively worse. I obviously took medicine and vitamins, but I remember one particular night I laid in my bed and I just got overwhelmed, because I thought, is this it? And I don't mean to scare anyone, but I felt like something was really working on my body and trying to take me. And I got really upset and cried, and I spoke to my other half, and I was like, how about going to get through this? And he was like, of course you can, you just keep pushing. I remember getting out of my bed and going into what we call the front room, but it's your den, and sat there and said, okay, I ain't going out without a fight. And I literally went into a different gear, really took the vitamins, were being intentional, put an alarm system to make sure I was taking it every 2 to 3 hours, and just kept fighting. I was up a lot. I didn't sleep as much at that time, because I realized sometimes it's good to rest, but also because of, they say it's a very congested, it's infection that messes with your respiratory. I didn't want it to affect me, so I kept moving. And then little by little, I got better. And I then said, well, I'm a survivor of this thing now. And that means there's so much more of me that needs to be given. Another onset that occurred, I noticed my throat was very hoarse, and then I ended up having to go and get my throat checked. I had polyps on my throat. That was caused as a result of coughing. You can only imagine, and I'm a singer, so suddenly you're not being able to sing. That's like the biggest devastation. Went through the motions, then went and had an operation. They went in and they noticed the polyps were disappeared. I was like, okay, thank you to my faith. They're really confused because they showed me before I went down, and then went in and there was nothing there. So that was beautiful to know that my voice is now being restored. I'm still working through it. My hormones all over the place, and my skin was bright. You can only imagine being an artist and in the public eye, all these things happening. It's almost like your life is being not taken away, but a big part of what you stand for is now under attack. And as I said, you have those faith moments or hope moments. And I said, okay, it's just a blip. Let's keep pushing. Let's take this time now to really heal. I took some time out where I am now in the US to really recover, and now reset, and then start again in 2022, but come even stronger, because I am a survivor and there's so much more to give. So I say to anyone listening, whatever you may go through, or if you've gone through this horrible infection, life goes on, and you now need to get it in the mindset that there's so much more for you to give. So yeah, that's my story.
I love it. And it brings me into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is your podcast, Who Am I? Because you said, I'm a survivor. I'm all these things. And I love, because when I was thinking, who am I? Where you're talking like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a grandmother, I'm a survivor. I an entrepreneur. I am a lover of others. There's so many things on who I am, but what is the podcast all about?
It's really amazing. They said in this season, some things are being birthed, and I didn't realize that this would be the season to birth this. And I'll give you a story. So literally prior to creating the Who Am I talk, I released a single literally the month before COVID hit in February. And if anyone knows anything about just putting out any sort of product, it takes a lot of work. So as an artist, you become a product, and you've got to do a campaign, and the work goes behind it, the videos, and the list goes on. And then COVID hit, and I remember thinking, okay, what do I do now? And I knew I had to really think, it can't be about me. I want to share my music, and I want my music to inspire at a time, but I've got to be very conscious that I'm not being ostentatious, and it's me, and it can't be. So I kind of pulled back, and me and the team sat down and spoke. And it was my brother, who's also a co-founder to the talk show, said, sis, remember before we was going to do this thing, this is the time to put your platform to use, get people out there that need assistance, just go out there into the world and see who can share their story to inspire and keep people motivated at this time. And that's how it was born. And literally, I have a long blacklist of people I know who are personal friends, celebrities, people in business, entrepreneurs. And I just kind of thought, what do people need? Okay, hairdressers, let's get someone on the show to talk about what they've done, how they got into hairdressing. Let's give them some tips. Nutritionists. And I just went for a list of what I felt at that time would help. And it just grew. And I mean, my social media exploded, like in the millions of people. I was like, how did that happen? But there's something precious about when you do for others. You've got to always remember you're a servant to others, no matter what you're giving to the world. And it's been amazing. And I've had some incredible guests. From my last one, I've had quite a few, but Kimberly Davis from the amazing band Chic and Nile Rodgers, she became a guest. And that's obviously the singing element. And that was really amazing to hear her story. And then from the other spectrum, a top nutritionist. And then I recently had a guy, Peter Tickenden, who's actually a climate change. And obviously we know in this season, that's been a big thing that I've been talking about. So I'm not like, I want this type of guest, because it's very easy to have someone into entertainment. Let's get people who have a story and let's inspire people. So yeah, it's been amazing. I didn't know it was going to do this, but it's done some incredible things.
I can imagine that it would, because I always tell people when we're doing this show is that your story is your superpower. It's what connects you to others. And it really is, like, sometimes when you're sharing your story, I was ashamed of being sick. Like, I don't know why I felt shame with being ill, because I guess I couldn't perform as a mom. And, I just wasn't showing up like I wanted to show up. And I didn't want to share my story. And when I did, it was like, well, first of all, it was embarrassing and I couldn't wait till it was over. And when I was done, I shared on stage with 30,000 people, which most people wouldn't do the very first time. And I couldn't wait to get off that stage. And I remember them stopping me as I was walking. The stage director stopped me and was like, where are you going? I'm like, am I not done? And they're like, no, you're done. You did a beautiful job. There's a line of people waiting to meet you. And I peeked around the stage and there had to be hundreds of people standing there waiting to meet me. And I was like, what do they want? And it was because something in my story hit a chord with them. It connected us. And when you're sharing your stories on Who Am I, they're connecting. That's me too. That sounds so familiar. They could do it. I can do it. And we share hope in those stories. So I love that you're doing that, Rene.
Thank you. No, it's so beautiful. Your story, we got to learn to be vulnerable more. It's hard when you are a person that wants to put the best, as I say, be your best foot forward. But the most vulnerable is the most precious. And the most vulnerable is when people connect, because they go, actually, someone else is going through this. It's not just me. We sometimes feel while we're going through the illness, the breakup, the job loss, that it's no one else has ever experienced that. But most of the time there's someone going through exactly the same thing as you. And when you do share your story, you give that person hope that you can actually grow from it. They can learn something from you. And that vulnerability is where you grow. That's what I feel. And I want, as you say, to encourage people to share. The more we share, the more we live, the more we grow, the more we can help others to get better. Don't be embarrassed about it, but it is natural to feel embarrassed when you're not feeling well and you think, what's people going to, because judgment is what makes you feel embarrassed. Like, people are going to think I'm bad or I'm not the best. But when you really stop and think about it, we're all going through something, whatever it may be. No one is perfect. And the more we share is the more we understand how connected we all are as people anyway. And, when you think of a song, why do we like songs? Because we can relate to the story of the song. And, some of the biggest artists out there have created songs that is like literally they're telling my story. And I feel so connected to it. So we'll be surprised that just that one word you give to someone could give them hope. And it's important that we acknowledge that and recognize that.
I love that you said no one is perfect, because there's so many people striving for perfection. They want to have the perfect kids, the perfect house, the perfect dog, the perfect cat, whatever. It all has to be perfection. And they're going to continually disappoint themselves. There's no perfect place in this world. We are meant to keep growing all the time and learning. And so there's a great place. There's a road maybe to better. But if you're trying to get to perfection, I feel like you're going to just keep disappointing yourself. I've never met a perfect person ever.
Absolutely not. And I think the imperfect is what's perfect, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's that imperfection. It's when somebody's not and they're doing something slightly different that makes us go, okay, I like this. This is not normal, is it? But what is normal? Because everyone is different. Every single individual on this earth has their own imprint, their own identity. That's special. And that tells you that each one of us are special. We're not made the same. Even twins have differences. So even though they look aesthetically the same. So I want people to really be encouraged that you are special. You know, they say, oh, because you're a celebrity or you're in the public eye, I'm not like that. No. You have something to give the world. Sometimes you maybe haven't worked out what it is, but you are special in your own way. And it's up to you to dig deep and find it and just acknowledge that you're individual and you're the only person that is that person. You know, that's incredible in itself, isn't it? People don't realize that. And then when you do look at people who are in the public eye, 90% we're going through far more than you can imagine, you know, so that shows again. So I think it's up to us, as I said, to share, to share each other's experiences, to be honest, be vulnerable, be authentic, and just live the best way you can. I think we somehow think there's, as you said, this perfect way of living, but just in this season more than ever is taught us that life is not guaranteed and life is precious. And with that, anything you said you wanted to do, stop waiting to do it, get it done. And then you feel rested.
I love that you were talking about there's no such thing as perfection, and that people's uniqueness, our imperfections, are sometimes what's the most beautiful part of them. And it's so sad because most people I know are hiding them because they're not the same as everyone else's, and they're trying to fit in. But that is what is like so unique and beautiful about them. I see them hiding it when they're building their business. I see them hiding it when they're like going out into social media, or even I have a couple of clients that are singers, and they're always trying to fit into a category that their mentors in, right? But they have this unique voice maybe, or this unique style that's like nothing I've ever heard. And they keep pushing that down to fit into the category that they think they can sell in. And it's so sad that that happens, because let your freak flag fly, like be your unique self.
Yeah, and you're completely correct. That's what's going to make you, because you are special anyway, but that's what will make you stand out. So actually, when you are, as they say, the sheep or following the trends, you're just like everyone else in the eyes of that kind of industry. But the moment you just step out of faith, when you think of the biggest artists and actors, there's something different about them because they're unique in their own self, or they're just being themselves and not following the trend. It's hard, as I said, because there's so much things thrown at you in media that make you feel that you need to be that way. What's the adverts and the social media and the perfect baby and the perfect marriage and perfect proposal, and it keeps going, doesn't it? The perfect, what's it called, gender reveal. I mean, goodness me, it's forever going. So with all these things being thrown at you, no wonder people feel insecure. But who are you and what makes you special? And don't ever say that there's nothing, because there is. And use the right language when you speak about yourself, because that's another thing people do. Sometimes they speak negative language, which then it reflects on the attitude and the way they behave. We've got to get better about using affirmations to each other, greeting each other positively. I'm a big sticker of that. You know, if I meet someone, I greet them with happiness and positivity versus saying something negative, because it steeps into your soul. So all these things, it's hard to change it, but you'll be surprised. There's nothing more satisfying or exciting when you see someone walk past laughing or they're happy. You just kind of want a bit of what they have, don't you? If you see someone sad, you think, oh, what's going on there? So you'd be surprised. Just little tweaks about how we engage and what we give to others makes a big difference.
I love it. And I want to leave this episode with that because I think it's super powerful for us to start changing that conversation, the words we use to others. I just wrote an entire article for our January issue on the
Did
words
you?
yes,
See?
about to start changing, detoxing the words, especially that we're saying to ourselves, because beautiful words might be coming out of our mouth. And then we, in our head, will say, that's not true. You can't do that. What were you thinking? You'll never make that happen. And I want us to stop those words we're saying to ourselves and change that conversation. Because at the end of the day, the only person's opinion that matters about us should be ours.
You're very true. That's amazing. And you're completely correct. I think as we move into 2022, make this a reset. I know they say, the New Year's revolutions, but it's okay to keep starting again. I think we're really hard on ourselves that, oh my goodness, at the end of the year, I didn't do what I wanted to do. It's okay. Try it again in 2022. And just keep trying, I think that's what living is about, is giving your best shot as much as you can. And as you said, using the right language and, connecting. This is a time when, because we have been closed up, we're more connected than we've ever been, and never lose that. Whatever this new normal or the new normal will be, it's okay, but let's keep that connection, because that's what we didn't have. And actually the negative that's happened with this horrible pandemic has made people closer. So I want to hope in the future that continues. Definitely.
Rene, this has been fascinating. I have just loved it. Can you tell everyone where they can find you, get your music, join your podcast? By the way,
Definitely.
If you don't catch it when she tells you, we will have all of it in the show notes, so you will not miss a thing. But can you tell them where they can connect with you?
Definitely. So I am on the social media platforms. The one I'm actually more engaged in is Instagram. So if you can find me at Rene Byrd Official on Instagram and Rene Byrd Official Global on Facebook. The podcast she's talking about is a Who Am I Talk. So that's also got its own Instagram as well. And it's on YouTube. And you can go to www.renebyrd.com. That's where I've got all the links and everything. And I'm very connectable. I do reach out and communicate with everybody. So, and if you to my music, you can go to my website and iTunes and Spotify and call my name up. So yeah, I'm around.
I love it. I was listening to your Born Again.
Thank you.
Before it came on, I was listening to it, checking out your website so I could get all fresh, and it was amazing. Go get it. Go listen to the podcast. Rene, thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolute pleasure. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and you're amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.